So, have you ever stopped and wondered what really makes someone sound advanced in English? Is it just knowing a ton of words, or is it something deeper? Well, we're not actually here to give you a test. Nope. Instead, we're going to deconstruct a simple quiz to kind of pull back the curtain on what English fluency is all about. Let's dive in.
I mean, this is the big one, right? Every single person learning a language asks this. Like, is there some invisible line you cross where suddenly, poof, you're advanced? Well, by looking at just a handful of simple questions, we're going to figure out exactly what that line is made of. Okay, so here's our subject. We're taking this short quiz from the English at the Ready YouTube channel, and we're basically going to put it under a microscope. And look, we don't care about the score. What we're really hunting for are the ideas behind each question. What skills are they really trying to figure out? All right, first things first, we got to start with the fundamentals. I'm talking grammar and vocabulary. Any language test worth its salt has to cover these. They're like the absolute non-negotiable building blocks. So let's see how this quiz handles them.
And here we go. Question 1. It's a classic if sentence. This is one of those spots where learners trip up all the time. So, what goes in the blank? Is it had or will have? The answer here tells us a lot about a really core grammar rule.
Okay, spoiler alert, the correct answer is had. And the reason why is actually pretty cool. You'd think had is all about the past, right? But here, it's talking about something that's not real, in the present. It's a classic little grammar trap, and getting it right shows you understand more than just basic tenses. It shows you get the mood of the sentence. What we're looking at here is what's called a conditional sentence. An advanced speaker just feels this one, They know that to talk about something hypothetical, like if I had more time, which really means I don't have more time, you got to use that past form, had. Nailing this is a huge step up from the beginner stage. All right, let's switch gears a bit. The next question is a little different. It's not just about what's technically correct grammar-wise, it's about what sounds natural, what a native speaker would actually say. So the natural way to say this is, I am waiting for you. It's so easy for a learner to drop that little word for, because hey, the sentence still makes sense, right? But to a native speaker, I am waiting you, it just sounds wrong, instantly, even though you know exactly what they mean. And here's the big takeaway. Some verbs are just glued to their prepositions. It's like they're married. And you don't just memorize this like a rule in a textbook. You have to develop an ear for it. Getting these little connections right is a huge, huge step towards sounding genuinely fluent. Okay, on to question 3. This one's about vocabulary, but it's zeroing in on a super common mistake. I mean, learners mix this up constantly. Was the meeting boring or was it bored? The meeting was boring. Simple as that. You felt bored because of it, but the meeting itself, it was boring. Getting this little difference right every time, that's a classic sign you're leaving the beginner phase behind. And there's actually a super simple rule for this. Think of it like this. ING describes the thing that causes the feeling, and ED describes the feeling you have. So a boring movie makes you feel bored. An interesting book makes you feel interested. When you get this right without even thinking about it, you know you're making real progress. Okay, so now we're going to level up. We're moving into some more advanced stuff. I mean, getting the textbook grammar right is one thing, but really understanding the subtle, unwritten rules of how people actually talk, that is a whole other level. So question 4 was a listening test. They played a sentence spoken really fast. Now, here's what that sentence looks like on paper, all perfect and proper. But that is not what you would have heard. In real, fast, everyday speech, this is how it all changes. I don't know gets squished into, I don't know. What you kind of melts together to become whatcha. And that hard T at the end of last, poof, it often just disappears. So the whole thing ends up sounding like, I don't know what you did last night. There's a name for this. It's called connected speech. And honestly, it's the secret glue that holds fluent English together. When you start to understand this, that's when you can suddenly follow a fast conversation or watch a movie without needing subtitles. It's less about knowing every single word and more about hearing the music of how it all flows together. And that brings us to our last question. This one's a little puzzle about word order. I mean, look at them. Both sentences seem totally correct, don't they? So what's the test here? What are they trying to catch? Aha, it's a trick question. You're right, both are 100% correct. The difference has nothing to do with grammar. It's all about something much more subtle: nuance and emphasis. And this, my friends, is a seriously advanced idea. Just by flipping the word order, you change the focus of the whole sentence. When you start with every day at 8, you're really emphasizing the routine, the habit of it all. But if you start with I go to work, it's more of a neutral, straightforward statement about the action. Being able to play with word order like this to create emphasis, yeah, that is a surefire sign of a very advanced speaker. Okay, so we've pulled apart all 5 questions. Now, let's kind of zoom out and see how the scoring for this quiz actually lines up with these different levels of skill we've been talking about.
So the quiz breaks it down like this. If you get a couple of them right, you're probably in that intermediate B1 range. You've got the basic rules down pat. But if you're hitting 4 or 5 correct answers, that's pointing towards the advanced C1 level. That means you get more than just what's correct. You get the natural flow and you get the nuance.
But, like we said right at the beginning, this was never really about the final score. The real gold here is understanding what each of these questions stands for in the bigger journey towards fluency.
Because what this all really shows us is that proficiency isn't just one single thing. It's more like it's built on 3 main pillars. First, you've got correct grammar. That's the foundation, the architecture. Then you have natural phrasing. That's about the rhythm, the real flow of how people talk. And finally, you've got understanding nuance, using the language to do more than just state facts, but to emphasize things, to persuade, to get across those subtle shades of meaning.
So in the end, this little quiz is kind of like a map. It shows us what real proficiency looks like when you break it down into its most important parts. So the question I want to leave you with is a personal one. Now that you've seen the what, what's your how? When you look at those 3 pillars, grammar, natural phrasing, and nuance, where are you going to focus your energy to take your English up to that next level?